Hello and welcome here today. I know you've had your induction and there is no plan for a fire alarm today. I'm David. You will also hear from Mark, John, Greg and Darren. The first part of this presentation, we will look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow had a psychological motivational theory back way in 1943, but I will let Mark explain this in more detail.
Good morning. Maslow's theory states people are motivated to achieve certain needs and that some needs are precedence over others. The first one is physiological. People's basic human needs like air, food, drink. And then we come to safety, protection from the elements, security, order and stability. Love and belonging, trust, acceptance and love. Esteem, dignity, achievement, independence, status and prestige. And that leads us to self-actualization, realizing personal potential and seeking personal growth. Using Maslow's hierarchy of needs as a focus, we maintain a safe and supportive learning environment. When we use the word safe, we don't just mean physical well-being for your learners, but also psychological and emotional well-being. Safeguarding is an enormous topic, but with an absolute minimum, we should be aware of the basic signs of abuse. First one being physical. Bruising, burns, fear, fractures and damage to property. Then we come to neglect. Poor living environment, poor hygiene and malnutrition. Physical and emotional. Confusion, fear, depression and behavioural changes. Sexual. Bruising, overtiredness and again behaviour changes. And that leads us to then financial, where unpaid and unopened bills, no food or heat or electricity. Ultimately, we all have a responsibility to maintain a safe and supportive learning environment. And that leads me now to John.
There are 7 features of inclusive teaching and learning. Being aware of barriers and challenges, equal opportunity, stimulating and engaging, learner-centered, encouraging active learning, using varied teaching/learning styles, and differentiated. I will go into more detail with 4 of these. Equal opportunities. Equal opportunity is making our lessons accessible to everybody, regardless of age, disability, gender, reassignment, marriage/civil partnership status, pregnancy, marital status, race, religion, belief, sex or sexual orientation. Simulating and engaging. What is interesting for one student isn't interesting for another. Refreshing lessons can be done by feedback, online forums, verbal discussions, and observation by peers. Encouraging active learning. Students at all levels need an opportunity to active learn. This could be done by chatting through ideas with others, a quiz, or a group discussion. Differentiated. Differentiation is recognizing learners' individual differences. You can plan to differentiate by adapting questions. For examples, asking clever students 5 questions, but slow learning students 3 questions. VARK, learning styles. Neil Fleming came up with 4 main visual styles. 4 main learning styles. Visual, auditory, reading, writing, and kinesthetic. Visual. Learners who learn best by seeing examples, graphics, charts, and diagrams. Auditory learners. They learn best by hearing examples, recording lessons, podcasts. Read and writing. Learners who learn by words, Example, reading from a textbook and distance learning. Kinesthetic, learners who best learn by touch and doing. Hands-on approach. These tend to find it difficult to sit still. I will now pass to Greg.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to introduce Maths, English and IT. Maths, English and IT is fantastic when you actually understand it, when you know what you're doing with it. Like the game of Monopoly at Christmas. We all like to play Monopoly, especially when you're getting all the money coming in because you can add up how much someone owes you for rent. Especially when you can read what you want to get next and actually put the buildings into your portfolio. It ain't fun though when no one can't do the maths or the English to actually read the contracts on how much money that they owe. In a real situation, take for instance, a waiter goes into a basic job. He takes an order for a steak and chips. He writes that order down, gives it to the chef. Chef looks at it. What on earth is this? He goes back to the waiter. Now the waiter's feeling embarrassed. Well, what does the waiter do? He has to go back to the table, try and rewrite. Because it's his first job. He won't understand to get the menu, to write it from the menu. And then, because of this, he then forgets to write down how much that table owes. The chef's cooking away, fantastic. He then goes, gets the food, gives it to the table. At this point, fair enough, the people on the table haven't got don't know the circumstances, what's gone before the food. The waiter now, all he has to do, the final part of his mission, is to get the bill sorted. With the maths side of it, he tries and calculates it, but he doesn't understand how to add it all up for all the tables, especially when couples, say two people's had some drinks, another couple of people on that table had something else. Now he has to break the menu down, breaks the money side of it down. Now he's stressing. He has to run to his manager. And for this young person, it's so embarrassing. Yeah, and this is why we're coming on to Maths, IT, English, Functional Skills Level 2. By doing these basic courses, that's been added into apprenticeships, and our structure with our courses, we can be a little bit better in our day-to-day lives, and we can have a better understanding on how to do that bit more for ourselves. So, functional skills, English level 2. Learners should be able to structure sentences and punctuate appropriately. For example, write an email or presentation to help them get their points across, or write a job application. English includes reading and writing, speaking and listening. This was reform functional skills in 2019. Put a greater emphasis on spelling, punctuation and grammar without the aid of a dictionary or a spell check. Because even using that can be quite embarrassing, especially if someone else knows that you have to use it. Functional skills, maths, level 2. Learners should be able to use a range of data, types and techniques to solve practical problems. Check the accuracy of their solutions, for example, to work out how much foreign currency they will get when they change their holiday money. 2019 reforms put greater focus on solving mathematical problems, both with and without a calculator. And coming to IT, which is integrated with every day of our lives now, with whatever job you do. So, with IT, learners should be able to manage and retrieve information, use a variety of applications and apply safety and security practices. Understand how to use a computer to produce a flyer for an event and create a mailing list for it using a spreadsheet. All of this is the basic understanding of learning, what we all need to do for our day-to-day lives. But for some people out there, it's not great. So everyone, if you know someone is in that position, please do help and support and get them onto these maths, English and IT courses, okay, because it will help them out massively. Now, I would like to pass over to Darren.
Thank you, Greg. We are now going to talk about behaviour and respect in the classroom. Respect has many meanings, but the English dictionary states having regard for someone, feelings, rights and wishes. Now on to behaviour. Now, if we don't manage behaviour in the classroom, the lesson becomes a non-learning experience and have a difficult experience for all. The behaviour in the classroom is important as the classroom becomes unruly. Certain things to adhere to in the classroom is respect and behaviour. If a student is hungry, tired and they become distracted and not well behaved, and let's try and develop their skills, and this will help with their esteem levels of confidence. Try and build a good relationship with the students, praise and encourage them to learn. Always make sure that the BET rules are being applied. Phones in boxes, good timekeeping. If you keep good timekeeping, the lesson doesn't come disruption at the start of the lesson or after break. Inappropriate conversations in lessons, students could be affected. We don't know what's going on in their life outside the classroom, so someone could be affected with their behaviour, and their behaviour could change to you or another student. Always try and form a good relationship with students and get a good positive answers back. Ground rules. If you set a ground rules first, everybody knows what they are doing. If you set a good standard of ground rules for yourself and students, then hopefully the rules set out will establish the good working environment what we all want. A few examples of good ground rules. Late into lessons causes disruption, what we touched on earlier. Inappropriate conversation, again, as we touched on earlier, might upset a student, they become disruptive. And keep a positive vibe in the classroom. And again, try not just to talk, so students don't become bored or distracted. I'd like you to hand over to John.
Death by PowerPoint. You would never use a PowerPoint like this. We know from our work on inclusive teaching and learning, different types of activities can be used. Different resources like graphs, quizzes, and even talking can help us all. Thank you.